maybe to get things started, could you say your name, what you've studied, and your current occupation?
My name is Freya Holmer. I studied, oh God, I only studied up until high school, so I don't have any like university credentials or whatever. But I did go to a vocational education after that to study, it was called game design, but it was more like everything from design to a little bit of programming and that kind of stuff within game development. That was like a two-year vocational education. And then from then on, I just went into the industry pretty much to do game development and tool development specifically for games. Yeah, so that was kind of how I started.
All right, maybe to generalize, how do you apply geometric algebra into your work?
So I feel like geometric algebra is, in some sense, when it comes to game development, like anytime you talk about math is a huge field, and there's so much in math that us as game developers, there's so much math that we don't actually use. Like math is or like in game development, it's a pretty small subset. Like the most advanced things we use in game development is probably like the like some of the projective geometry with like the projection matrix, some integral stuff when it comes to like integrating fog volumes, and some of the abstract algebra stuff when it comes to rotation representations and quaternions. And so when it comes to applying geometric algebra to game development, it's not so much replacing my entire understanding of it, but more so clarifying like things that can be like reinterpreted in a different way. So for example, the angular velocity, for example, that's usually represented with a vector. And so if you have a spinning wheel, you can use the right-hand rule or left-hand rule depending on your game engine. You can use the right-hand rule to figure out, okay, so if a wheel is spinning in this direction, then this is the angular velocity vector, right? And so usually that's represented using a vector data type in games. But the thing is that angular velocity that vector does not behave like a standard vector. So if you imagine a car that's driving forward, the angular velocity of one of the wheels is pointing in that direction because it's rolling forward. And then if you put up a mirror and you mirror this car to the other side, the vector does not get mirrored. Like it's still rotating in this direction, right? But the angular velocity vector does not get transformed by the mirror. And so it's a different type of thing that in geometric algebra terms, angular velocity is not a vector, but it's something known as a bivector. And because of that, when you have a bivector, which is I usually represent it as a disk, like a disk with a size and direction, then mirroring that disk doesn't change anything fundamental about it. And so we've kind of had this tradition of representing things using vectors that really shouldn't be vectors. And so for me, it's mostly about replacing some of those kind of like incorrect assumptions about usually angular velocity or the result of the cross product, so something like the normal direction of a surface. That's also not really something we should represent with a vector. And so, yeah, so for me it's more about like kind of upgrading the stuff that I already have and not having to keep track of the weird like pseudo vector rules. So for me it's just kind of made things more consistent, and I make less mistakes writing that type of code. So yeah, that's mostly how I use it. But otherwise when it comes to like quaternions, like you can learn quaternions on their own without geometric algebra. But the geometric algebra counterpart, which is the 3D rotors, give you more consistency. And so even though I've looked at quaternions before, and I still use quaternions in that framework, it's just that geometric algebra allows me to have a better understanding of them.
All right. So for you personally, where did your passion for game development start?
Oh God, I don't even remember. I mean, I played games ever since I was a kid because my dad used to play a lot of video games, and I would always watch while he played games. And then I grew older, and then I started playing games, and I don't know, it was probably just, I was very young. I don't even remember, 8, 10, somewhere there. I was like, I want to do this thing. And I think the moment I understood that like games are actually made by people, they don't grow on trees, like that's not how we get video games, right? That's when I was like, okay, that seems awesome. Like that seems super cool. Like, and I think honestly, my dad was probably like my biggest like anti-inspiration in a way, because my dad whenever he came home from work, he hated his job. He really didn't like his job. Whenever he came home, he was like tired, exhausted, didn't really want to do anything, and he didn't have any time to do like creative projects or anything because he was so tired and exhausted. And I remember thinking that, like, you know, as a child, I'm like, okay, well, if I'm going to spend 8 hours a day on this thing called a job, I do not want to feel like that when I come home. So like from that moment onward, it became like my priority to be like, okay, I want to do something that I have a genuine interest for, that I love doing. Because if I can spend 8 hours a day doing something I enjoy, that's like, obviously, I feel like I would live a better life, right? And so game development for me, obviously because playing games was a huge passion for me, and then realizing that that was an actual career, then it just felt like a natural match for me. And so growing up, like, making levels for games, like using level editors and modding games was kind of like my gateway into then developing games myself.
So you could say you turned your passion or your hobby into your work, in a sense.
Yeah,
but
for better or for worse.
But how do you manage your work and life balance?
I don't. It is an ongoing struggle, to be honest, mostly because I'm independent. And this is something I've been going back and forth on in general, because it's like you say, like turning your hobbies into work is a bit of a double-edged sword type of deal, because like, yeah, it's really powerful in the sense that you get to do something you love doing, but what has a tendency to happen is that you can kind of start corrupting your hobbies, and they start becoming motivated by things like, I should do this because this is what people want and this is what makes money, rather than this is the thing that I intrinsically want to do. Like, these are always in conflict, or almost always. Like, my goal is to try to find like a happy middle ground where, like, I love doing this thing, but I should also do it a little bit more like this in order to survive financially, right? Because obviously I need to make money in order to get by, as, you know, I'm self-employed. So whatever it is I do, everything hinges on me to make that money. So it's been very much back and forth throughout my life. Like, sometimes, you know, I started a studio a while back, and then I was at the studio, we were making games there, and then since then I've left, so now I'm on my own again, and now I'm sort of back to this, like, blurring the lines. So like, what is a hobby and what is work, and when do I work? Do I work every day or no days at all? And so like, I've struggled with burnout specifically because I've had issues with finding that work-life balance. Because, you know, when you run your own company and you're one person and you don't have an office or anything, you're just working from home, it's very easy to get stuck in your own head, and it feels like you're working all the time instead of getting to choose your hours. Because like, in an ideal sense, you would just choose the reasonable hours and not overwork yourself, but psychologically, you know, I'm outside of my working hours, and then I get an email, and it's like someone who's having some issues with one of my Unity plugins. It's like, oh, I have this issue when I'm making my game, and like I'm using the this and that render pipeline in Unity, and I'm trying to like use this blending mode, and it's a full moon, and for some reason I'm using this weird Mac VR thing, and it's not working, and I'm like, okay, I feel like I should respond. Like, even though I'm not in the working hours, it's like I'm the only like gatekeeper for like responding to and engaging with all of my customers. So that is something I'm still struggling with, and I think after, you know, I went to rehab for burnout, so it was a pretty big issue. But I think since then I've sort of learned a few different tricks to try to get a better understanding of when to pull the brakes and slow down a little bit. Yeah, I could talk about burnout for like an hour, but I don't know if you're interested.
You also have quite a big social media platform. Why did you decide to create content around this topic?
Honestly, I just like talking about it, and obviously, like, I think everybody like enjoys some level of engagement and interaction. Like, it's addictive to some extent. But I think the stuff that I do, especially when I do like visualized stuff, like visualizing mathematics, I think it resonates with a lot of people. And when I see that people respond positively to the things I do and the things I say, like, obviously that, to me, that's what I like about being a teacher, because you can, like it's awesome to see that, you know, you talk about something and then all of a sudden a bunch of other people are inspired by the stuff that you say. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. That's really cool that I could inspire people to do something. And so I think both for my teaching and for posting online, like usually it's from the same type of thing. And also like it's fun to get attention, of course, but then there's also like a more like, I don't want to say cynical, but more like a marketing type of thing. You know, I don't know if you know too much about how like attention has kind of become a commodity in this day and age in a way that it definitely wasn't before social media. And so for me, I think it also became this dual purpose of having a big audience means safety for me. Because then that means with a big audience, if I work on some like weird projects or some game that might be a little bit obscure, I still have a baseline of attention that I can get on whatever it is that I do. And obviously, when you're making video games, attention is extremely important. Like if you look at the marketing budget for any video game, like any like AAA video game, the marketing budget is like, I don't even know, it might actually be bigger than the development budget because it is so important to get eyes on the thing you're making, because otherwise nobody's going to notice the thing you're making even if it's a really, really good game or whatever. So for me, it's kind of that dual purpose. I enjoy sharing the stuff that I do, and it also gives me safety in terms of like having an audience and having a baseline to start from whenever I release whatever it is I'm working on. So
I do wonder, do you have sometimes have a fan interaction, like for example, someone recognizes you on the street?
Yes. Well, usually it's not like recognizing me on the street. But if I go to events, like any like game developer related event, then there's a lot of people that do recognize me. But I have had one situation where it was like literally out on the street, completely out of the blue, which was like a few weeks ago. And I was like, hell yeah, I had the thing happen. So now I can say I did actually have one on the street interaction. But yeah, I don't know. To some extent, it's hard for me to know like whether the stuff I do has a very broad appeal, because usually the stuff that I talk about is like technical art, which, you know, even within game development, that's a pretty narrow, specific field, because game development is huge in terms of the different things you can do. But I think I'm always kind of surprised by how many people know of my work, and I'm not sure why, but I'm glad, and so yeah.
Another question I have is, when you obviously give tutorials to people who are having struggles with developing stuff, do you also sometimes have a problem where you don't instantaneously can't fix it? How do you fix that problem then?
Well, it depends on my mood that day, I guess. Like it's usually it's all about breaking things down into smaller problems and solving them step by step, or like checking your assumptions. Because quite often I find that like when I get stuck on a problem, it's usually because I've made an assumption that I shouldn't have made. Yeah, I mean that's kind of like a standard part of the, like whether it's debugging an application or if it's something that I don't understand. Usually it's just the solution for me is just reading more about it. Or did you have a more specific question about like a specific type of research problem, or?
Not that I know of. I was just curious.
But yeah, usually that's like I'm a very like methodical learner in a way. Like I know that some people like to learn in different ways, but I have a very hard time learning something if I don't understand the fundamentals. And so like, and that's not just within game development or not just math or technical things, but it's also within like, I don't know, even understanding what someone is saying. Like, I want to understand every single word that you said, and if I didn't understand some of those words, I have a hard time accepting that and moving on. Like, if someone says something and one word is something that I don't understand, I will usually ask, like, oh, what did you mean by that thing? Usually in a way that doesn't sound as confrontational. But like, so I sort of have the same approach to learning where, you know, you might be reading like a Wikipedia article about some math concept, and if I run into a word that I don't understand, well, I guess I'm reading that article. So you kind of have this like hierarchical deep dive into whatever it is you're not understanding. And usually when I get stuck in a problem is when I've skipped over something and made an assumption that I think this is that thing and I think I know what that is. It's probably fine. And then usually it's not fine. And usually those are the problems I get stuck on.
All right. Another big topic in generally everything is artificial intelligence. What do you think of the use of AI in your line of work?
Okay, this could go on for another like 5 hours. In general, I am very much on the like anti-AI side of things, especially when it comes to creative work. I think that AI does not belong anywhere close to anything creative. In my opinion, I think that there's like, in anything creative, in any of the things that we see out here in the world, it could be like, I don't know, this bottle. Like, okay, take this bottle. Like, I think it's awesome that someone designed this bottle. I think that's so cool. Like, it's like there's probably some symbols for like some who designed it, or like there's a seam here. There's probably a reason why there's a seam there. I don't work with glass, so I don't know how that works. But and then there are also this like screw mechanic, like the way that this works, the way that this is designed on the inside. Like, look at all of the intricate little details there. I think it is so cool that there are so many stories in everyday objects like this. Like, I can take a deep dive into this corkscrew mechanic, and I can probably find a whole history of the development of this, like why it was developed in a particular way. Usually you find out things you didn't even know was a thing because someone cared about every part of this and spent time creating it in a way that would be, beneficial for all of us. And in my view, AI has a tendency to take away all of that. It takes away the humanity from anything it touches. Because if you made something with AI, like, you didn't really make that thing. You commissioned everybody and nobody at the same time to make something, right? And if someone asks you a question about like, oh, why did you design the like screw mechanic that way? You're just gonna be, I don't know. Like, I don't know why. Like, that's what the AI did. Like, okay, but like, what was the AI thinking when it designed this? It's like, I don't know. Like, nobody really knows. It just did its thing. And to me, like, I see so much beauty in all the stuff around us and the humanity that went into all of this stuff. And to me, I just feel like AI is kind of the antithesis of that. And so like, I can see that AI has use cases for sure. If it's like, if you use an AI to do some work that involves basically zero creativity, of like, you have a type in C# or in some programming language. Maybe you don't do programming. I don't think you do. Like, let's say you have a list of like a bunch of bullet points, and you want to change all of those bullet points into some other symbol because you want to paste it into some other document somewhere. Like, that's not creative work. That's just grunt work, right? Like, using AI to do that kind of work, I'm totally fine with that. Like, I don't care about that. But like, the moment it's used for creativity, I feel like you're kind of giving up your agency. You're giving up putting your care and thought into stuff. And it encourages this like quantity and productivity over quality and like humanity. And that's just something that I personally, I value that humanity so much. And I think AI, at least, LLMs and the diffusion models for art, like all of this kind of stuff, to me feels like kind of like giving up on humanity. It's kind of like, you know what, we're not going to do anything anymore. We're just gonna generate everything. So yeah, I don't know. But I probably have a very, very negative opinion about it because I do spend a lot of time in art circles, people who do illustration and 3D art, and art communities in general are a lot more negative towards AI than people who are in tech. So I sort of, not to shit on anyone who's excited about AI and whatnot, like, it is exciting. The technology is super cool. It's amazing that it's even possible to do these things. I just feel like the use case for it is, like, mostly from what I can tell, the way people use AI is to kind of strip humanity from things and to create more things faster. Like, kind of like you're creating products instead of art. And I think that mentality is really destructive. And so to me, like, I just see it as it's like a cancer on anything creative. I hate it so much. But yeah, that's my opinion about AI. Sorry, I didn't mean to be super dour on that.
No problem.
Yeah.
So maybe to finish up, there are loads of aspiring young game developers on this campus, but also the people who watch your videos. What is one piece of advice that you can give to those people who want to make it far?
In game development specifically?
For example, yes.
Oh God. So this is going to be like individual, so it's hard for me to know like what's good advice for specific people. But I think for me, a huge part of why I'm so driven to learn new things and do things, it's kind of because I've found my happy place for like the stuff that I love doing. And if you're able to kind of like take the stuff that you're doing and turn it, like go down a path of stuff you love doing, like learning is going to be so much easier when you're down that path. Because then it's not like, if you have to learn something you don't want to learn, like you're going to have so much friction. Like even when I was in school, I was like, oh God, I don't care about like sociology. Like I want to get back to my video games. And it was so difficult for me to learn those things because I didn't really care. But I think if you manage to like steer the course that is down the stuff that you intrinsically enjoy doing, you know, for the sake of doing the thing, not because you want to create a product or become famous or whatever, like the stuff you enjoy doing, if you can go down that path, and of course somehow you need to survive financially or find a job like within that field, then I think that's kind of the way you should go. So I don't think like, especially because game development is really competitive. And I think game dev right now is in kind of a rough spot after COVID. So there's been a lot of layoffs, so there's even more competition now. So I think game development really it needs people to really care to do that kind of work. And if you're not really into it, and you're just getting into game development for money, which I've never heard anyone do ever, but if we imagine this person exists, then I think that's a really, really bad idea. Because you do need that passion in order to kind of like stand out and actually push it forward.
All right. I'd like to thank you for coming over and sitting down with us. It was a pleasure.
Oh yeah, thank you for the talk.